Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think of the term monk, a stereotype comes to mind, and I don't know. It's because I maybe didn't know much about becoming a monk or what that meant. But today on our show, we have a guest who has taken that journey and now has kind of gone on its additional journey, using that information on his path as an entrepreneur to share and enlighten others and support others who are on their own journey in life. So Madhu Dasa, I want to welcome you to the show today.
I'm so grateful to be here with you, Zach. And thanks for creating such a great environment for us to be able to actually talk about stuff that's transformational.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, that's something that I think that going through the period of, I believe you said 5 years in becoming a monk and study and educating yourself and traveling, that has to have been transformational in your life.
To say the least. Yeah. I mean, to be an 18-year-old on my 18th birthday, that's when I decided to become a celibate monk for 5 years. Not the typical path for a young man, but
Sure.
it was arguably the best decision I've ever made in my life. Maybe behind marrying my wife. But it's
Absolutely.
very grateful for those
Yeah.
years of opportunity.
Now, for those of us who are less informed and less aware of what that might look like, do you just share a little bit about kind of that time in your life and what it meant becoming a monk and kind of what that experience is like? Because I don't know, again, like I said in the introduction, many of our listeners probably have never really looked into what that might require and what that might involve.
I know I sure didn't when I started to get familiar with that concept. Usually we think of monk, we think of like, in the middle of the Himalayan mountains, not seeing anyone, whatever the case might be. And there definitely are monks like that. But traditionally, not only are there different types of monks from different types of practices, from Abrahamic traditions to Eastern traditions, from Buddhism to Hinduism to yoga practices, etc. There's all different types of monks. So what I'll speak to is that the general conception of a monk is a celibate student learning a particular philosophy or theology and or practice. And so the particular monk that I was called, the practice is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti literally means loving devotion, and yoga meaning to connect divinely. Usually we think yoga in the West, it's like just the physical yoga, which I'm a big fan of as well, don't get me wrong, but it's the psychological conception of yoga, which yoga means to connect, to link. We still have the word in English from Sanskrit, which means to yoke, to link. And so yoga meaning connecting to divinity through our practices. So what it means is you wake up early in the morning. For us, it was 3:30 to 4. Get right into, you cleanse the mind and cleanse the body through, you shower, brush your tooth, etc. Do some mantras for cleansing the mind, some reading, etc. Get into some group meditation for some time. Then you do about 2 hours of individual meditation. Then you spend some time studying ancient literatures, the ancient philosophy, and then you eat a little something, one of my favorite parts of the day, still to today. And then you go on to do your service for the day. Depending on one's psychophysical nature, you spend the day just serving and trying to help and share the knowledge with others.
Yeah, wow, I love that. I love that. And it has to have been, again, a transformational period because it is such a practice to get up at 3:30 in the morning, go through that experience of cleansing, going through that experience of study and meditation, and then serving others and serving whatever that capacity would be for the individual. But um, basically, I've heard a lot about creating practices in our daily lives, not specifically just in the relationship to becoming a monk or in that practice, but those daily practices of habits that we can form that can help us become less stressed, less anxious, more productive. I can imagine that it had been helpful for you to have gone through this time and apply those things today. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. I mean, you said it so well, my friend. The idea being that I believe that success comes from having successful behaviors. And I don't believe success is something you can achieve once. It's something that you can have on a daily basis. And so really what I learned from being a monk is sometimes people say, oh, what are you going towards? Like, what is the goal? And don't get me wrong, there definitely are goals there. But the primary focus was really, what does a perfect day look like? And like, how do I arrange my life so that I do what I want when I want, while learning to control the mind? Because as a student monk, of course, I don't still wake up at 3:30 every day, at least not voluntarily. Um, but the idea is those years are dedicated to train the mind to actually cooperate. Because if you don't train the mind to listen to you, you listen to it. And then you become a servant to the mind. And so really adapting these behaviors or these habits that are what you want to be doing and that are actually of contribution and actually of service, actually of helping yourself and not only improving your quality of life, but also improving the quality of life of others. That's real success, is figuring out those habits and those behaviors and then committing to them and then ultimately falling in love with them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that regular practice. I love that. Now, 5 years is a period of time that you went through, and then you had to figure out kind of what that next step in life would be for you and what your next path would be. So talk to us a little bit about kind of that next venture and how you were attempting to get into continuing to serve others, but also figuring out how you could then make a living doing that.
Yeah. Well, I graduated the monastery after 5 years. There's no specific time. It's not like you go for
Yeah.
1, 5, 10 years. It's always under the guidance of your teachers. And, it gets to the
Mhm.
point where it's like, okay, I think it's time. Like you're prepared enough to become a normal person per se. Or in other words, you can now take this information and start to build a life.
Yeah.
Um, when I graduated the monastery, I was very scared, actually, like nervous. When I had great support from the lineage I come from. I mean, I had more support
Mhm.
than I could imagine. I'm so grateful for that. And it was like, what the heck do I do now? And I knew one thing was certain, and that is I like to teach. And the whole idea is you take what you learn there and you go out to share it with others. So, when something's so delicious, all you want to do is tell everyone about it. You got to try
Yeah.
it. And so that's really what it means. You graduate to give it to others. So I knew, okay, I needed to teach, but I had never made money in my life. I joined on my 18th birthday. And prior to that, I was like a lifeguard and I made, a few dollars an hour, but I never had money.
Yep.
I don't think in my life I'd ever had more than $300-400 in my account at any given time. And I also, my parents, I'm so grateful. They took such great care of me, and it was a very modest life. So I had no
Mhm.
training around money or no familiarity. So I was like, what do I do? So I spent about 2 years traveling extensively, doing
Mhm.
amazing things, very fun things, helping people, and living off of donations that people would give when I would go teach, and making a whopping 15 to 18K a year.
Yeah.
15 the first, 18 the second. So far below the poverty line. And I realized that it was so ridiculous for me to be going around and helping others, because I was doing two things. One is helping with mindfulness and meditation, and the other
Mhm.
is with holistic health. Ayurveda is the Sanskrit term that is the study of health, pretty much, that I learned. So I was helping people with these two things, and how silly for me to be wearing down my health and
Mhm.
my mindset in the name of helping others in an unsustainable way. And that's when I really turned to figuring out how to make it sustainable and creating a business. And I'm grateful to say we, through some grit, and a lot of
Yeah.
really education, through a bunch of education, learning how to create a sustainable business and getting that to 6 figures and then multiple six and then seven and like that, and growing it from there.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's taken a lot of hardships and time, but grateful for everything I got to learn in that process, from going from nothing to something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and you were continuing through that process to just bring what you had learned to serve others, but just like you identified that you were wearing yourself down physically, mentally, and emotionally. And in that process, realized that there had to be a better path, a better way to do this. And for many people, they have a lot that they can offer others, but they don't know what to do or how to get that to them. How did you find those resources or supports to get to where you created systems and structure? I mean, I know from talking with you, it wasn't completely on your own. You had some guidance and support in that process. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how that guidance was found and how that you were able to follow that to then structure systems to build upon.
Yes, definitely didn't do it on my own. Not interested in ever recreating the wheel. It's too much work. I like to say we learn how to stand on the shoulders of giants. The people who've already done the thing, learn how to do it from them. And so I think the first step is always starting with the desire, having a clear idea of what exactly you want. And that's something I struggled with, and kind of was like, maybe I do this, maybe I do that, maybe I
Mhm.
focus on this, maybe whatever the case. And then it wasn't really till I decided, like, okay, you know what? X is what I wanted to do, and this is what I want to. And then, as if magically, I say magically, everything came in place. Like, I'm a big believer of when we have a clear vision, all the opportunities to achieve that vision become in our awareness. They were there the whole time. The opportunities are always around us, but in the same way as there's that game Punch Buggy, you get listeners might play with your sibling when you were a kid, where it's like you see a buggy, you get to like punch them in the arm. All of a sudden you now start to see a bunch of buggies. Or when you get a new car, you start to see everyone else with that same car on the road, whatever the case might be. Where attention goes, energy flows. So whatever we attune our attention to, we start to see opportunities of that thing. And so the first step was getting a clear idea from that, and then actually taking opportunities when they came. Doing some research, finding out who do I want to learn from, who's done the thing, how can I serve them in such a way that they want to actually teach me, and how can I actually qualify myself to be a good student? How do I access the resources to make it available for me to learn and get the education, etc. And so it always starts with a clear idea, and then attuning ourselves to the opportunities that will provide us success with that clear idea.
Yeah. Having some clear guidance and support from others, but also having that clear idea. Because I think, like you said, I mean, I think this really applies to a lot of young people as well, people who are coming out of high school or out of a program or a structured location in which they were residing, just not really knowing exactly how they wanted to give back to others, or what path they want to take, because sometimes we have so many different ways that we want to help, or we want to give, or we want to work, or we have ideas and how we want to make money, but it's hard to narrow it down to focus and to get that mindset in the right place. You did talk a little bit, we talked before about having a monk mindset, kind of a structure, making your mind your best friend, I think is what was stated. Would love to hear a little bit more about that and how that has helped you, and how you help others with that, and when they're talking with you about kind of the way they're thinking.
Absolutely. Well, I believe that really the mind is practically the only thing we can control in life. There's so few things we can control in our existence, but the mind is one of them. And it takes practice to learn how to do that. And if we don't learn how to control the mind, it will certainly control us. And we've all had experiences unanimously of times where don't eat that 13th cupcake. Like, I don't, okay, just one more cup, whatever the case might be. And so arguably the most important thing for any living entity, specifically human beings, to do is learn how to control the mind and work with the mind, because we've been gifted this beautiful prefrontal cortex, which actually allows us to go beyond just the needs of life. We're with those animalistic tendencies exclusively of just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. All living entities have to do that. But us as humans, we have this opportunity to ask bigger questions. Who am I? What am I? What is my purpose? How am I here to be of service? What is the lesson in this? We have recursive language where we can understand things over. All these gifts that come with a human mind and human body. And so our job really is to learn how to control the mind enough to the extent where we can really be a contributor to society. The mind naturally just wants to take, what can people do for me? But that causes a very unsatisfying life. Actually, happiness comes from contribution and service. And the only way we can learn to do that is by learning to control the mind. So what we've developed is called the monk mindset method. And it's pretty much, I could give some ideas, but it's an extensive understanding of learning how to control the mind. And starting with actually still a clear vision. That's always where we start, is what exactly do you want? And then a whole process to achieving that in a sustainable way. So again, as opposed to just hitting one mark, like what does my life need to look like for every day it to be the best day? Because we only have a few days. We might have a couple days, we might have a couple of years, maybe a couple of decades, maybe a couple centuries left where we get to be in this particular body. So let's utilize it, because we don't know how long we get to be in it. So let's not go for a foreseeable future that's not guaranteed. Let's make tomorrow the best day of our life. And how do we do that? It always starts with our mindset and starting to develop practices around controlling the mind.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, and I do agree that there's a lot more that you would have to explain to really kind of make that clarity. So we didn't really talk about it, but when you went from traveling and teaching to figuring out how could you make this sustainable for yourself, as well as still continue to serve others, you had to rework how you were approaching this area of education and how you were doing your business. So talk a little bit about how your business is structured in the sense of, if somebody is interested in working with you, or is it group context, online, in person, what are you doing now that has worked well and allowed you to help serve others, but also continue to grow and expand your business?
Yeah, well, all of the above. We do all of the
Mhm.
above, and I'm a big believer of, we have what's called a service first mentality and approach, and that is
Yeah.
just help as much as we can. So we made all of our courses are free, all of our
Mhm.
content's free. We have a great community of just tons of empowered entrepreneurs that come together, because I believe that if there's somebody who can take the action, somebody who wants to just like do this stuff, let them do it.
Yeah.
We just sell implementation. Like people who are like, yes, I want a hand and I want to develop that mindset and like have accountability, have the practices. I want somebody to show me how to do it. That's what we do. But we make everything available so that from our business structure, which is called conscious closing, which means how to
Mhm.
scale your online businesses in such a way that it's sustainable, and it's conscious closing, which means you're never using manipulative sales or it's
Yeah.
service based, it's integrity based. How do you do that in such a way where you can build at least multiple six figures, if not beyond? It's a lot easier than people think. We just don't have the knowledge of how to do it. From the monk mindset approach, which is again how to learn how to control the mind, how to get clear ideas of your goals, how to actually hit your goals. New
Mhm.
Year's resolutions, 90% of people fall off. Like how do we get successful with 90% of the things we do want to do, if not 100% of them? And anyway, all the ideas of learning to control the mind, understanding your own nature, your own psychology, your purpose, etc. And we also have holistic health, etc. We got tons of stuff that we
Yeah.
like to share, because I believe that the reason we've been so successful is we really just want to, if we really just help others, enough of them, enough of the people we help, they just go, could I give you some money? Maybe it's a little more nuanced than that, but I mean to say that enough people, then they go, hey, I don't want to do this myself. I want to work with
Mhm.
somebody who's already done the thing that could show me how to do it in the most expedited way and get that support. And so, yeah, I'm just a big believer of just help as much as we can in our capacity. And then on the back end, we're going to be taken care of. The squirrels are being taken care of.
Yep.
Birds are being taken care of. Why not me? I'm going to have everything I need ultimately. So why not just be a contributor to
Yeah.
society?
Yeah, I like that service first mindset. I think that's a great way to look at this, and also to acknowledge that there are a lot of people who are ready and willing and able to take that information and run with it. But then there are many others who would love to take that information, but also want that support and accountability and be able to work alongside of someone. And I love that concept of conscious sales. Like how did you term that, or what was that called again?
We call it conscious closing systems. So
Conscious
in other words,
closing.
how to get people who want to say yes, in other words.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and doing so with integrity and not manipulation. I really think that's a great way to do it, 'cause I know so many sales programs, unfortunately, I've seen it, have approached it from more of a manipulation
Yeah.
in the guise of doing so with integrity, but in the end, it's not done in such a manner as that. But oh, I love it. And so if somebody wants to find out more about that information and more about your resources, where do they look? How would they find that
Yeah,
information?
on any platform at Madhu.life. That's
Okay.
Madhu. It's like Madhu dot
Mhm.
life, Life.
Okay.
Any platforms there, that's our website. You can drop us a message there, info@Madhu.life. There's a bunch of ways, but social media, Madhu.life's the easiest way probably.
Okay.
Drop us a message and let's do this. If you send me the word
Mhm.
then I'll know they come from you. And not only will I give you access to all of our content, all of our courses, which to be transparent, a little audacious, but it's better than a lot of these 10, 20, 30K coaching programs that are out there. It's like, we just give it away.
Yeah.
Not only will it give you access there, but there's a little gift I'd like to send to your people. But it's only for those coming from this podcast. So make sure you send me the word freedom so I know it's from here, so I can give you a little extra gift as well.
Perfect. I'm gonna be the first one to do that. I love it.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask before we get into our closing, but just when thinking about the everyday life that we live in and exist in right now, and we see every day on social media and we compare to others externally, there can be a lot that we feel we are lacking, and it can lead to an unsatisfying life when we look at just the external. How do you help people to change that perspective so that they can lead a satisfying life, whether or not they have what they see others have.
Yeah, well, happiness is an inside job. And so happiness actually comes from a sense of understanding, we like to say is understanding reality um, in such a way that it's real, like knowing what's actually
Yeah.
existing, knowing what's going on, and seeing your part in it. You know, a little screw in a big machine is essential. And if you just take one little screw out of a big machine, the machine doesn't work well. And so, no matter whether it's a big part, a big contributor, or whether it's seemingly a small part, every part's important. Like, how can I be of service?
Yep.
And that type of mindset, when we're always thinking, okay, how can I improve? Like, how can I help? How can I improve the quality of life of others? Even if it's a seemingly small thing, it's going to provide so much so much of a sense of inner happiness and contentment. Because again, taking things never provides happiness. I mean, if it does, it's fleeting. It's like, cool, I have this thing. Now what do I do with it? It's going to go at some point. And so that mood of service is really what's going to provide a sense of inner contentment and happiness. And I would say when you can couple that with learning how to control the mind, then it's like what could come your way that would stop you from feeling successful or happy? I would even say beyond happiness is contentment. It's bliss, a sense of like, yes, I'm stoked to be here. I'm grateful for every day. I wake up with some idea of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to contribute? How am I actually going to be of help? And then in this way, there's a mission, there's a mood, there's a purpose, there's a sense of like of why I'm here to do what I'm doing. And then again, if you can learn how to control your mind more and more, then you can control your life, in which case you pretty much do whatever you want whenever you want.
Love it. I love that. It's a great perspective to have and to help others to gain. And I have one last question that I like to ask all of my guests. If you were to be handed $1 million today to invest in your business or another endeavor, what would you do with that? I mean, no restrictions on it. So what would you do with that and why?
Well, right off the bat, charity, a big, a
Mhm.
big percentage, at least 10%. I'm a big believer of at least 10% of every dollar profit comes in, give it to it, a source that's going to
Yeah.
improve the quality of life of others outside of my hands. And I would immediately take at least half of it and investing that into scaling what we have so we could just help more
Mhm.
people. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, 500,000 would provide enough so that we could get, quite a handful of coaches trained up to help more people, get enough people, we've got a pretty big team already, but probably triple the size of the team, whatever the case might be. And in this way, grow and scale the business. And then the other half, or the other, say 400,000 or so,
Mhm.
I'll let you know. I have to think
Yeah.
about it. No, but there's certain other ways to contribute, but I don't believe that money ever does well sitting in one place. A percentage
Sure.
that would obviously go towards long-term savings. Don't get me wrong, but
Yep.
money is a resource that's always meant to be used. It never does well sitting in one place.
Yeah.
We always want to be investing it per se into some purpose.
Yes. Yep. Okay. I like that. I think that's a great perspective to have. Now, again, you mentioned it before, but if anyone wants to reach out and find out more, Madhu, MADHU.life. And if you also provide the word freedom, there'll be something additional that will be provided to you, as well as access to the information that Madhu and his team have put together to share with you and others freely. And then you can find out more about additional support and collaboration with implementation as well from him and his team. So, Madhu, I want to thank you for your time today. It has been a real pleasure and honor to host you here.
Thank you for doing the labor of love of keeping this on so that we can actually get together and talk about helpful things. I appreciate it, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you.